Look who it is.
Hello there,
Commissioner Smith. Hey, Doug, I got a quick question for you, and thanks for being here. Oh, this is a small animal growing on my face.
That's not the question for me. That's the question.
Good to see you.
That's good looking stuff.
Hey, listen, I'm recording this, and Thank you. I'm recording.
Oh, okay.
I'm recording. This is Ed Campy. Ed gave the closing speech tonight, and he was just complimenting us on Talk About Martin. You like it?
I do.
You think it's
now that our traditional media is sort of fading, we need folks like you, Eric, to educate, because there's an information vacuum. And some people will throw anything into the vacuum, and some people will throw accurate information.
Well, I'm trying, and let's throw some more accurate information out there. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know that we're at an event right now, but still, I'd like to ask you about your recent decision to shorten the time frame on closing the pet stores down, and even closing them when they didn't have any violations against them. Why is government taking a heavy hand in the free market and closing these stores down when there was no evidence that they had any wrongdoing going on at all?
Two things. One, both of those pet stores are not in unincorporated Martin County. They're in the city of Stewart. So although we passed some of that legislation, we didn't close any pet stores down. That would be the city of Stewart making that their own determination. We don't have the ability to close down pet stores in the city.
You did. You voted that they couldn't no longer operate in the county.
Well, but they're in the city.
So these two stores will still be allowed to operate?
They have to deal. The city of Stewart looked at our ordinance and then decided their own situations if they wanted to mimic it exactly or change it. Those pet stores are located in the city of Stewart.
So you're saying the city of Stewart has the ultimate authority as to whether they can stay in place or not?
After hearing some concerns from residents that we did not hear from when we were making those determinations, I went to our county staff, both legal and administrative, and asked them those questions.
Good.
And they said both of those stores are located in the city of Stewart. So we have passed an ordinance that would not allow additional pet stores in the regards of selling puppies, kittens, and rabbits, which most of our other municipalities around this area have done the same.
But they've all grandfathered in. They've all grandfathered in the existing stores.
We didn't need to grandfather in the existing stores. They're not in the county. They're in the Martin County, but they're in the incorporated. They're in the city of Stewart, so they're not in unincorporated.
So these two stores don't have to worry about losing.
That's up to the city of Stewart.
But right now they can still operate the way things are. They're not worried about the December 31st.
Well, they would have to take that up with the city. The second thing that I would tell you, when you mentioned that there was no evidence of any kind of wrongdoing in those stores, that's not what we have heard leading into it.
But that's hearsay. We've looked it up. There are no official
I'm saying that
complaints.
People came to us and showed documentation of. There was one woman that was all over social media that said she had worked there and had all sorts of inside information.
So again, she could have been a disgruntled employee.
Correct.
But you have an enforcement arm through the sheriff's office, and there were no violations.
Well, the sheriff handles it in terms of animal control. But again, those two in particular are city issues. And if the city commissioners, especially there's some new ones now, if they were to say, we change our mind, we're going to alter our ordinance to not be a mirror of the counties.
So you're saying the city of Stewart's accepted an ordinance already?
Once it left our chambers, all of the municipalities, Indiantown.
Right, we're affected by it.
No, but they can make their own determinations.
So they can reverse it on their own, but you could reverse it too. You could decide to bring it back to grandfather those two stores in, and then we wouldn't have to go through another municipality.
Well, but they are not. They're in
the county.
Correct, but they are regulated.
Well,
by
if
the
you
city
can
of
close
Stewart.
them down as easily, you can bring them back.
We didn't close those two down.
So they get to stay.
Well, that's a question for the city of Stewart.
So if the city of Stewart does nothing, they get to stay in
Well,
place.
if the city of Stewart says...
We're playing ping pong here.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know if the city mirrored and passed that ordinance that we did at the county.
But if they didn't, these two stores are allowed to stay in.
Correct. They're in the city of Stewart.
Okay.
And then if they did, and these... First off, I'll tell you that I asked our staff if those two pet stores were notified of the meeting.
They were not.
Well, our staff says yes.
Both say they were not notified. They had no idea.
They also had the opportunity a week later to come forward after they must have heard about it.
They've sent a letter and emails to the commission that we've seen already.
A week later, at our next meeting, they could have come forward and asked for a reconsideration and presented their cases. Now, I have to trust that our staff said that they were notified. I'm just telling you what I hear.
What about the appearance of having $10 million worth of Martin County's money going to nonprofits that were sitting there? There's a lot of money to be made with these nonprofit organizations, and there's big salaries being paid for people out of donations and things for what many would call a bleeding heart issue. We have, and which brings up too, why was it only the retail stores and not the backyard breeders?
The backyard breeders look, I'm not sure about backyard breeders. In terms of the not-for-profits, like the Humane Society gets a lion's share of that money, state statute requires that we would have to have some. We went through this a couple of years ago, where some citizens came forward and really worked hard against the Humane Society, the Treasure Coast. And there was a vetting process, and because of that, we created I forget what the acronym is, a group of professionals in the industry to review the goings-on at the Humane Society. I'm a supporter of the Humane Society. There was several not-for-profits. And I asked the question, if someone wanted a bulldog or a Jack Russell, and it's not available at the Humane Society or at any of the other not-for-profits in Martin County, I bought my wife a Jack Russell many years ago, and we bought it from a breeder that had a farm, who had the pedigrees and the health documentation. So, I'm not opposed and don't, I'm not second-guessing my decision about puppy mills and things like that. If those two individual locations, look, I was a small business owner. I work for a small business currently.
That's kind of my point. What would happen while you were in between your commission seats if they said for the health, safety, and welfare of the county, we're going to ban ice cream because it promotes diabetes, tooth decay, and obesity? Then you'd have to reinvent your business within 6 months, and all you could sell were ice cream cones and ice cream scoops. It's about as crazy because these guys are selling $2,000 and $3,000 puppies that they're getting from legitimately registered AKC breeders.
That's what we hear. But I've also heard folks just like you. I take you at your word.
Yeah, but we have to use the system instead of using hearsay, especially in your position.
Well, but I'm hearing you say it, so you're giving me hearsay.
No, I've looked up I have looked up the official records, and Wags has zero complaints and or any kind of violation against them. The other store that's closed down had 6 complaints from people that came in, but there were no violations that were cited against them. So both stores have had no formal sightings against them. That's why people are trying to figure out how we can close down a whole sector, especially in a free market environment. Look, the strip clubs, when the county closed them down, I know you weren't there then, but they grandfathered the strip clubs in, for goodness sake, okay? And we still have one operating. Same thing with the dock workers and the fishermen. They said, no, you can't have any more. Your lease is gone, you're done. They came back, there was a negotiation, and now it's one in, one out. We also did it with shark fishing. You got pushed back on that, and now we say you can only do it at night after hours. You can't fish from a beach during normal swimming hours either if the lifeguard thinks it's in violation of health and safety. And these are dogs. These are people that are making a living. This guy just signed a 5-year lease, and he's on the hook for it now, and he's not going to be able to operate.
Well, again, he can, because if you can take that up with the city of Stewart.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's new news.
Well, after the decision was made, I never heard from either of those business owners. They never reached out to me or any other. Now, they're not in my district, even if they are.
Maybe we can help facilitate a meeting.
I get that. But I would also tell you that when the state closed arcades, they just shut them down. All of those business owners had to close. Remember the arcades that we had here in Martin?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so I knew plenty of people, and they didn't have any issues. I read everything. I watched Mike on KC, and I read your website, not just to see this issue. I just enjoyed your website.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We do try to keep it above board.
Because it's news. And,
sure.
As an elected official, our residents need to hear news. And I know you as a friend. I believe what you wrote is accurate. I'm telling you that those two business owners, if they were as concerned as this was happening to them, whether, let's say they didn't find out, our county staff says that they were notified. You can look into that and find out and look for records of if they were notified or not. Secondly, after it happened, If it was my ice cream store, and which I don't have anymore, but if I would have gone and asked to speak to the commissioners, I would have presented that. The person that made the most passionate plea for these businesses to stay open is you. You are the first person that's ever even asked.
There's an old saying: first they came for the trade workers, and I did nothing.
I wouldn't
you know?
compare that to this.
I would, because the strongest government is the local government. The government we have the most control over is the local government.
Correct.
And if I allow small business owners, regardless of the product that they're selling, if there's no wrongdoing and no one's being harmed, it's for a whole market segment to be taken out. You're supposed to represent the Republican principles and values. You were elected as a Republican, and the free market's not being represented here.
But I don't hear you saying anything about when they eliminated vaping and cigarettes and point of sale purchases in drugstores, not in drugstores. In
We've only been here for
stores.
2 years.
No, I'm not talking about
publicly.
your
No, I agree with
website.
it. You could
I'm saying
substitute
that
alcohol for
the
dogs, and I would still
government
disagree.
what you're saying is not like the first time this has ever happened.
No, it's not.
But sometimes the government, whether it was when Obama closed all the car dealerships, I bought my car from Massey Yardley on US 1 in Hope Sound, and the government just decided, you're closed. If I'm a small business owner and I'm as concerned as you are saying those folks are, I'm hearing more concern from you and Michael Circus and a couple others. They're the only ones that even contacted us indirectly.
We have a petition working right now, so I'm going to share with you in the days to come hundreds and hundreds of other residents that are as concerned about this, and hopefully we can bring this back and you can work with the business owners and the steward.
They're not our business owners. They're City of Stewart business owners.
Okay, so then they're not affected by what you did unless Stewart decides that they want to ban them.
I would ask you to double check that with our county staff, because that's what I heard from county staff.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And I appreciate you being candid with me,
I'm
too.
telling
It's
you
important
look,
to people.
I mean, if I'm asking for you to place accurate information online for residents to
Yes, sir.
inform themselves, I have to give you what I believe is accurate information.
Roger that. If you don't, you're going to get caught.
And so what I'm telling you is I'm relaying to you the same questions that I heard from you and others
Right.
that I asked our staff, like in the last week. I said, hey, I'm hearing that these businesses were not notified. Well, they were. And I'm hearing that the 2 stores, that we closed those stores.
Okay.
Well, we didn't close any stores. They're in the City of Stewart. The City of Stewart would have to create their own ordinance that would match ours, and quite often they do, so that there's consistency.
We'll see if we can't get out ahead of that.
Right. I mean, you got brand new commissioners there and existing commissioners. If they understood that meant that these stores were going to go out of business.
Appreciate it.
But I appreciate that you're advocating on behalf of those business owners.
Thank you.
They did not advocate on them for themselves. And could've.
They tell us that they
That's-
didn't have the opportunity.
Well, but they did. You know better than anybody. They did. After that meeting happened, if it was my businesses and I was up in arms over it, everybody contacts us every day about hundreds of issues. If that was so directed to them.
Well, we're going to be talking to them coming up. Casey's going to do a live Facebook stream with one of the business owners, so he'll be able to address that directly. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything you'd like to say about Indiantown? Because this is a real historic time.
Look, there's been a lot of historic decisions and events in Indiantown, from incorporation, which I know exactly how you felt about that.
Yeah, I was on the no side.
I understand, but they also carved out an area that didn't put you personally and your neighbors.
Yeah, we asked for it. We went and
Well, that's
petitioned.
what I
We
mean.
went and petitioned the government to get us
So
out.
the system worked.
Yes,
you
it did.
You didn't want to be part of it. I remember.
Correct.
You didn't want to be part of it. And I felt like you did, that if you didn't want to be part of the incorporation boundary, and that when it's being drawn, you should speak up and say, we don't want to be part of it.
Agreed.
Then I was there for the original swearing in of the original board. And to be here tonight to see some new folks come forward. Look, I get it. You stick your neck out on behalf of public service. Some people love it, some people don't like it.
I understand, man. Look, it's not an easy job, and I thank you for being there.
I think you
and
and I have more in common than we have not in common.
you never know. We'll have to get back for another cup of coffee. Thanks, Ed.
Bye, Eric.
Bye.